This is the AHSAA Weekly. I'm John Holder. This is your weekly look at everything going on with the Alabama High School Athletic Association. Coming up on this week's program, we're going to go to Montgomery. The president of the Alabama High School Athletic Directors and Coaches Association, Jamie Lee, joins us to talk about the preparations for the upcoming winter sports in the Alabama High School Athletic Association. We'll also visit with Class 2A Making a Difference Award winner for 2020, Robin Tyra. Also coming up, we're going to visit with Mountain Brook head coach Chris Yeager as we preview the WOTM AHSAA statewide game of the week between Mountain Brook and Shades Valley coming up Thursday night around the state here on WOTM. We'll also have our AHSAA Central Board of Control Spotlight. Marengo County Superintendent of Schools and AHSAA Central Board member Luke Hallmark will join us. And we're also going to take a look at David Holsford's Plays of the Week from all over the state of Alabama from last week's action, including a very special visit with Fife head football coach and 300-game award winner Paul Benefield. All of that and more on this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly.
Home making you sick? Ox Foundation Solutions can remedy any mold or mildew problem in your home. Get a free estimate from Ox Foundations. It's time to get strong. OxStrong.com.
This week on the AHSAA Weekly, we're going to take you to the Alabama High School Athletic Association offices in Montgomery. Jamie Lee is standing by this week. Jamie is the president of the Alabama High School Athletic Directors and Coaches Association. But this year, with the COVID-19 virus, all of the folks at the Athletic Association are wearing a lot of different hats this year. Jamie also this year is going to be the lead person, the point person, if you will, on the return to play protocol for winter sports. Now, I know we're in the fall, but Jamie, as we welcome you in this week, winter is just around the corner, and those winter sports are going to be cranking up here really next month. Welcome in. Glad to have you with us this week.
That's right, John. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Really appreciate you guys doing this, and appreciate the show. You guys do a great job. And yes, we're getting close to, we're thinking about it every day. Even though we're still new in the football season, we're already planning and thinking about what do we need to do to get those student athletes on the indoor track and on the wrestling mat and in the basketball court and the gym. So you're right. We're thinking about that already.
I know there was a fall sports task force. Is that going to be the same way with winter sports coming up?
That's right. We have put forth the winter task force. We got coaches in all 4 indoor sports, including bowling. So we got bowling, indoor track, basketball, and wrestling. We've got coaches from all 4 of those sports that have met twice now, along with Central Board members, our staff, just to talk about the things that we need to be thinking about preparing for as we get to the winter to be able to compete and try to have as normal as seasons as we can possibly have. As always, as in the fall, just like the fall document, we've had great input from our medical advisory board, Dr. Robinson and Dr. Dugas. We've had great help from Dr. Scott Harris from the Alabama Department of Public Health. So we're coming along. We've still got some work to do, but we are coming along with that task force. We really appreciate all the coaches that are involved in that, trying to give us some input and lead us in the right direction with that.
Jamie, I would imagine that with fall sports having started and being going pretty successful now for about a month or so, you've been able to glean some things from them that have gone well. Talk about some of the things that you're kind of taking away from fall sports so far.
We have. One thing I would say is one of the things that I know we've learned is our coaches, our administrators, our athletic directors, they will do what is asked of them. They have the safety of their student athletes, their coaching staffs, and their community in mind at all times. And so, so many times they're just looking for guidance from us, and we've tried to do our best job in the fall to do that, and we're continuing to do that with the winter sports. And so, like I said, one thing we know we've learned, they're going to do what we ask them to do, and they've done a fantastic job, and they're going to keep the safety of the athlete in mind and to put that at the forefront. The other thing that I've been real impressed with is that it's different, but we've still been able to play a football game and to play a volleyball game and run a cross-country meet. And so once they get used to the protocols and the mitigation that has to take place, it becomes second nature. Let's just go play the game, play the volleyball match, run, whatever it is. And I think we'll see the same thing in the winter. Now, it's going to be drastically different in the winter. We know that if we had to start today, there'd be a lot of things different. But once it's all said and done, there's still going to be a basketball game played between two teams. And we're really looking forward to seeing some of that.
Jamie, you talked about some of the differences. Maybe the biggest difference is with all of the winter sports, they're all inside. And of course, with inside play and of course, being in the wintertime and things like that, there are some more different challenges than maybe the folks in the fall have had. Talk about the play moving all indoors.
That's right. And I think that's our biggest challenge, John, is how do we help our schools have an understanding of what the current state health order mandates and requires to be able to play an event, to do an event indoors. You know, in football, it's so much easier to walk into the stadium and you can still have a very good crowd and still social distance and do the mitigating things you need to do. But we've also been able to learn a little bit from volleyball. The volleyball teams are doing a fantastic job. They're indoors. And so we've learned some things from them that we know that we can continue on in basketball. But you mentioned it, our greatest challenge is going to be attendance in the indoor sports and how we help schools put the most people in there because they still have to make money in order to be able to fund their program. So to get the crowd the way they need to be able to run the event and yet still maintain safety precautions and do what they need to do to keep everyone safe.
Jamie, you've got a lot on your plate, but you've got a good group, a good task force I know that you've put together. And so far, the Alabama High School Athletic Association has done a great job in managing this coronavirus situation. We have no doubt that will continue as we move into the winter sports. Thank you for spending some time with us this week on the AHSAA Weekly.
John, thanks so much. I appreciate it, and we'll continue to work hard and try to put the best product we can out there for our student athletes. Y'all have a great day. Thank you so much.
Jamie Lee is the director of the Alabama High School Athletic Directors and Coaches Association. Our guest this week here on the AHSAA Weekly. Back in just a moment.
Things a little bumpy in your driveway? Ox Foundation Solutions has the expertise and the know-how to repair cracks, wet basements and crawl spaces, and uneven floors in your home. It's time to get strong. oxstrong.com.
Back on the AHSAA Weekly, time to take a look at this year's Class 2A Making a Difference Award winners. Coach Robin Tyra was at Abbeville High School, now at Ashford High School. Here's the Class 2A Making a Difference Award winner.
Growing up in Ewan, man, it was a great time for me. You know, had a lot of support, and then, you know, as a coach now, a lot of what I do is, you know, built around that because, you know, we had a very active booster club that was, you know, supported the team, supported the players, and, you know, friends I graduated with, played with, the families were, you know, real connected, and so, you know, being involved in those things, you know, and building those relationships with those players that I played with, and a couple, you may know Freddie Lawrence, who's at Homewood now. He and I grew up together, a couple other buddies, just that tight community, tight-knit relationship, and, you know, diversity in the guys that I grew up with has just kind of opened up a lot of, you know, a way I approach things, the way I approach people, and just seeing them for what they are. And, you know, so the impact in that community of Ewan, man, is just, you know, I love that. Hopefully I represented that town well in what I've done. And I decided I want to be a coach. It was probably about, I guess, my first coaching clinic. I got to, of course, being a big Alabama fan, Coach Randolph, John Randolph, who's from my hometown. I got a call when I graduated from the University of North Alabama in '99. His dad reached out and got my number, and he called me. So go to Coffeyville, first coaching job, and got involved. And even still then, I'm still kind of figuring out, you know, if this is something that I want to do. I knew I did because of, you know, played sports, summer league, all this, and it's just, you know, where I knew everything kind of made sense and wanted to be around. And because, you know, this recent statement I heard, I think it was Rich Sherman say, if the world was like the huddle or teams, man, it'd just be a great place, and it's just somewhere where it just always made sense to me. So anyway, you know, what we're at Tuscaloosa, Bama's coaching clinic, and man, I'm still a kid out of college, fresh out of college, still a fan and everything. So all of a sudden, I think it was Gene Stallings who was still head coach there, and those guys are right there. So for me, I'm like in awe, and I'm like, this is what coaches get to do. And I'm like, this is like, Christmas right now for me, because all of a sudden you see some of the speakers they have there that year, and just guys that I've seen from a distance, a little old Ewan at that time years ago, and I'm seeing just a kid and a fan looking at it from a box. And, I have an opportunity to be that close to them so I could reach out to them. I was like, man, I know this is for sure. And it's like, man, if this is what they do, I want to do. And so as far as the sport, it was a great opportunity. And so the following year, when I took over as the head coach, I'm a year out of high school when I took over. Out of college when I took over. And you're talking about somebody that don't know anything. I tell the kids now and folks, I don't know anything about coaching. I don't. I'm just a guy that hopefully can, sell things, and and that's kind of how it happened. But whenever I got there and took over, I had a guy that just Joe Shanks was his name. He's retired from Mississippi, and former football coach, and 23-year-old head football coach, and doing high school sports, and has no idea what he got himself into. And so I know you're familiar with what's going on there with Coffeyville, and man, I just able to develop into what I was, and learn some things the hard way. And Coach Goodwin, who was a guy that was my high school coach, I was doing things his way, and then I finally figured out who I was as a coach, because the kids responded to me. And so that pretty much in that year, second year as, in education and teaching, that kind of figured out and knew that, who I was and what I want to do for the rest of my life. Coach Goodwin set me down years ago as a ninth grader. Got threw out of a game as a ninth grader. We're playing Sullivan, and got voted back on that team that night. And that Monday morning, I know that Wednesday or Tuesday morning, something's going on in the gym, so the classes in the auditorium there at Ewan, and Coach Goodwin sits me down. He gives me a talk that I needed. I knew I needed, and it's pretty much the first time anybody kind of, other than mother, who it wasn't talks at that house, it was whoopings at that time. So he sit me down, man to man, and just say man to kid, and kind of opened my eyes up. And I remember what he said. He said, "You're planning on playing for me in some years, right?" And he said, "What you're doing now, it can't work. It ain't gonna work." And so it took me a little bit during that conversation to really figure that out. And so he kept his hand on me. Another one, Coach Jones, who was there, who'd known me for years and taught my mom. And they took time with me and spoke with me, and because I needed that. And as a coach now, I look around at kids and I can see my face on them, but thinking, man, that that talk probably needs it. And so as I approach kids now, I talk to them the way I needed to be talked to, because a lot of folks shy away from it, and I've seen it. They shy away from it because they don't feel like what they say may connect. Well, it may not connect, but it ain't what they want to hear, is what they definitely need to hear. And so I make sure I approach myself the way Coach Goodwin has affected me. At 3 o'clock till 6, however long it is, man, that's like the best time of the day. And I look around, I get paid for this. And now granted, it's, as coaches, there's some, and there's some that make way more than me, but to me, I'm thinking, it's such joy. It is just such joy to see a kid figure out how to handle 3 technique, how to read a secondary, how to read that 5 technique if we're running option, or a kid that finally drops his shoulder, gets his hips down, and scoops the kid up, and that guy melts underneath him, and see the reaction and that joy of that kid finally figure those things out. Or that kid successfully, complete a test and come back and proud about that report card. Is it crazy? Those are championship wins for me.
We'll be back with more of the AHSAA Weekly in just a moment.
Uneven floors got you rolling? Ox Foundation Solutions has the expertise and the know-how to repair cracks, wet basements and crawl spaces, and uneven floors in your home. It's time to get strong. AHSAAstrong.com.
Welcome back into the AHSAA Weekly. Coming up, our WOTM AHSAA Game of the Week statewide this week will be from Spartan Stadium in Mountain Brook as two next-door neighbors there in Jefferson County, Mountain Brook and Shades Valley, do battle. We are joined via the phone lines now by the head coach of the Mountain Brook Spartans, Coach Chris Yeager. Coach, glad to have you with us this week on the AHSAA Weekly.
So good to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Coach, looking forward to the game statewide. I imagine a lot of folks will be inside because of the weather, but you'll be outside. Probably a wet field, but maybe the rain will be out of here by the time we have the game coming up with Shades Valley. I'm assuming your team's preparing for a wet field and maybe a wet ball coming up on Thursday night.
We are. We've made some preparation during the week, but hey, this is how football's supposed to be played. It's supposed to be. I'll tell you this, players like playing in weather like this. Coaches don't always, and fans for sure don't, but the players love it.
Well, one thing, it will be cooler. Coach, you moved down for the first time ever since we went to 7 classes down to 6A. And right off the bat, you're the #1 team in the state in Class 6A in the last ASWA ranking, an undefeated season so far. I know it's been different. You've had a couple of forfeit wins in there, a couple of on-the-field wins. I think you even had a win in a game that's what they call not a game of record. So it has definitely been an interesting season for your Mountain Brook Spartans.
It has. I mean, it's been very interesting since, last March 13th, I think is the date. But anyway, it's been a situation where we've had to, overcome, and everybody has. I mean, everybody's learned to be flexible, and everybody's learned to adapt to whatever obstacles that you're facing and different ways to overcome it. And so one of the things I think that, I like a routine. I like things to work out like I know they're going to work out. But, if that's sort of your MO, this has not been, the kind of season that you'd want. But anyway, it's been a great learning season for me, and just to relax and roll with the punches. And so anyway, I've enjoyed that part. I've enjoyed growing and learning in that area.
Coach, I know a lot of folks around the state will be anxious to tune in and look at your football team and see Mountain Brook. What can they expect from this edition of the Mountain Brook Spartans?
Well, we have a lot of players returning from last year, and I think that's why there's, the expectations are pretty high for our team. And, we were fairly successful in the region that we were in. We had an 8-2 season and, and made the playoffs, and we lost in the first round, but it had a lot of folks coming back and stuff. And, I feel like, the fact that we're ranked #1, it says, I think it's sort of tipping the hat to the reputation maybe of our program and the players that have come through our program. But this team, has got a lot to prove, and we've told our players that, we are multiple on both sides of the ball, and we usually take, the players that we have, and we try to identify what they can do best and sort of shape and mold our offense based on what players can do. And so, that's what we have done. And so that makes it multiple. We have to use a lot of different packages, and we have to use a lot of different personnel, a lot of different ways. So it makes it fun for us. It's the football version, I guess, of Moneyball sometimes.
Coach Yeager, thank you for spending some time with us. Looking forward to having you statewide in the statewide game of the week at Spartan Stadium as you host the Shades Valley Mounties for the first time in 7 years. Thank you for spending time with us on the AHSAA Weekly.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
Coach Chris Yeager, head coach of the Mountain Brook Spartans, with us on the AHSAA Weekly.
Hot under the collar because your basement is full of water? Ox Foundation Solutions has the expertise and the know-how to repair cracks, wet basements and crawl spaces, and uneven floors in your home. It's time to get strong. AHSAAstrong.com.
Back on the AHSAA Weekly, time now for our Central Board Spotlight. We're going to take a look at Central Board of Control member Luke Hallmark. He is the superintendent of the Marengo County Schools, also a longtime former coach as well. Here's board member Luke Hallmark.
Athletics has played a major role in Marengo County School Superintendent Luke Hallmark's life, first as a standout basketball player in high school and college, later as a basketball coach, and more recently as an AHSAA official for baseball and basketball. And he served as a member of the AHSAA Central Board for more than a decade.
I've been on Central Board going on 14 years, and it has been a very, very enjoyable experience. I think what I enjoy most is being able to feel like that I've made a positive contribution in helping make athletics better for our student athletes in our state. We certainly have made some changes as far as, going to enlarging our basketball tournament. I think moving the state championship game to Auburn and to Tuscaloosa has been very big. And then having our baseball state tournament being held at the Riverwalk, the minor league stadium in Montgomery. People don't realize what a wonderful experience it is, not only for the players, but for the fans and the community to come and play in arenas or fields that they've only read about. And now to be able to have their friends or have their children to be able to play on it has been a wonderful experience. I've been very proud that we have been able to do some great things financially, that we've been able to give back to our schools. I think just a few years ago we gave back over $2 million to all of our schools. So we've been able to waive dues for our schools for a record number of years. It's all about trying to do what we can to make things better for our student athletes and for our schools throughout the state.
Luke Hallmark has served as a superintendent for Marengo County Schools since 2000, leading a system with 3 rural community schools. As an AHSAA Central Board member, he served as president, vice president, and chairman of the Finance Committee, and he is a member of the Alabama High School Sports Hall of Fame's class of 2020.
Managerial styles vary according to people's personality. With my personality, I enjoy people, and I have high expectations of people that work for me. I do want to know what's going on. Initially, when I took this position, one of the first things I did is I tried to get as close as possible to my directors and learn as much as possible from them and from my principals. And then once I learned as much as I could, just let them know they've been hired to do a job, and that I would appreciate that they let me know what's going on. That I didn't hire a person to be a technology coordinator or a federal programs coordinator or my CSFO to do their job. I've hired them for them to do the job, and that they come and share things with me, ideas that they may have to try to make things better, anything that could help our system grow in a positive way.
We'll be back with more of the AHSAA Weekly in just a moment.
If you are experiencing foundation issues, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
We want to thank the NFHS Network and, of course, right here WOTM providing highlights each week. This is David Holtzford's AHSAA Prep Highlights for the week. We'll start with some riveting volleyball action down near the coast. Defending Class 6A state champ Spanish Fort taking on county rival Baldwin County. Look at this exchange between the Tigers and the Toros. First is Janie Ellis with 2 punishing spikes. Both returned, however, by a diving defender on the other side for Baldwin County. This is a great sequence right here between Baldwin County and Spanish Fort. Great high school volleyball action. Emma Claire Lee finishing off the point for Spanish Fort. The Toros will go on to win the match 25-9, 25-9, 25-14. You can see the good sportsmanship with a goodbye wave as they leave the court. Staying down in Mobile, Enterprise Wildcats taking on the Davidson Warriors, a 7A non-region game played at Baker High School. Wildcats quarterback Quentin Hayes with a triple option. Halfback Sam Whitaker with the score. Enterprise not through, though. The Wildcats run reverse. This is senior running back Joshua McRae following his blockers, speeding 43 yards for a touchdown. Enterprise would go on to win 52-13. Going a little further north, Opelika topped Eufaula 28-21 in this 6A Region 2 battle. Exciting from start to finish. Bulldogs quarterback Eric Watts with a 10-yard Opelika touchdown. And then Eufaula quarterback, this is number 9, Rodarius Thomas scrambling, then a one-handed catch in the end zone for the touchdown. Watch it here on the replay. A great play right there late in the fourth quarter. Opelika defensive end Trayvon Moore finds a crack in Eufaula's punt protection, blocks a quick kick, and teammate Jakari Stevens scooped it up and returned it for the winning touchdown. Opelika winning over Eufaula 28-21. Pike Road moving from 3A to 5A this season, averaging 54.3 points per game, traveling to Andalusia. They didn't seem to miss a beat. Patriots quarterback Iverson Hooks keeps on the read option here and scoots 70 yards for a touchdown, getting a great block from Blake Durham. Junior running back Quinshawn Jennings also got into the action for the visitors with this run up the middle, setting up another Pike Road score to close out the highlights as the unbeaten Patriots win over Andalusia 39-10. 18. Staying down south, Flomaton running back Demarion Finley takes this handoff 65 yards for a Hurricanes touchdown to jumpstart the 25-8 Class 3A Region 1 win for Flomaton over Cottage Hill Christian. Cottage Hill quarterback Robert Kyle Hipp finds wide receiver Avery Rogers for the 56-yard touchdown connection, but Flomaton's defense would shut the Warriors down the rest of the way for the 25-8 win. In the Thursday night AHSAA TV Game of the Week, right here on WOTM, Grissom got on the scoreboard first with the old double pass. Quarterback Jacob Foss to Reed Dexter, who pulls up and finds tight end John Stogner for the touchdown. This is Sparkman. They came to play. Quarterback Nicholas Sawyer drops back on this play, forced out of the pocket, darts untouched through the Tigers defense into the end zone. Shown again following his blockers right there into the end zone for the 28-14 win. WOTM with a special treat for high school football fans in the second game of the week, shown here at the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery on Saturday. Central Phoenix City's Zion Morris returning the opening kickoff 79 yards for a touchdown. Red Devils never look back. Central quarterback Caleb Nix followed with this pass to Jackson Meeks, and the receiver turns it into a touchdown. Meeks strikes again when Central's other outstanding quarterback Treon Miles chases an air snap that sails over his head, picks up the ball, sets his feet, and fires to Meeks, who jumps high with a Jeff Davis defender, comes down with the ball and speeds the final 10 yards for the score. You look at it once again right here on the WOTM replay. Central even its record of 2-2 with a 37-6 win in Class 7A Region 2 action. And for the final play coming up, yeah, you're right. This is it, the wild finish in the Hillcrest-Tuscaloosa-Wetumpka game. Everybody in the country talking about this one. The Hillcrest School broadcast program shows it all. First, Wetumpka place kicker Alex Lundell, you saw, booted the 19-yard field goal to give the Indians the lead. Following the kickoff, the Patriots completed two passes to the 41 to set up this amazing finish. Coach Sam Adams borrowed this from Boise State University with 2.9 seconds left on the clock. Quarterback Ethan Crawford takes the snap, throws it to wideout Marcus Wilkins. He laterals it back, following 8 more laterals and a scramble for a fumble. The ball ends up back in Crawford's hands again, and he races down the sideline untouched for a touchdown and a dramatic 34-30 win. There were 4 fumbles, 8 laterals. And you see one of the fumbles right there, another fumble, and finally picked up by Crawford. And then green grass in front of him. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and future Hall of Fame quarterback Tom Brady commented on this and said, "This is why we love football." No doubt about that. The highlight of the year in high school football, not only in the state of Alabama, but more than likely in the United States. And one last video clip, a special one. That is Fife head coach Paul Benefield, legendary coach in the state of Alabama, getting a Gatorade bath after Fife's 49-20 win over county rival Sylvania. 300th career victory for Coach Paul Benefield. You see that September the 11th, 2020, gets a ride off the field on his players' shoulders as Paul Benefield gets win number 300. Wrapping up this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly, we will leave you with highlights of our 2 games of the week from last week here on WOTM, the Sparkman-Grissom game and the Central Phoenix City and Jeff Davis game. We'll see you back here next week.
But then once again, you've got rolling out, and you saw Jacob Foss tonight. There were glimpses of him showing incredible arm when he had time, but the story was the turnover. The big turnover right here picked up by Sparkman as they pick up the fumble. Rumble down deep into Grissom territory, and a few plays later, handing it off up the gut, taking it inside the 10, and then hurdling defenders and into the end zone for the touchdown.
On the very next play, and this is kind of when you knew it was Central Phoenix City's day. Miles to Meeks, and Meeks gets it on the board. And then you start the half off with a great play on special teams, then you end the half off with a great play on special teams. The safety there makes it 37-0 early on. The second half belonged to Jeff Davis. They scored the only touchdown of the game. It was this huge play here by Donald Harris that got things going off for JD, and then capped off with the 1-yard touchdown by Chase Ford, and a nice show of respect there by both coaches.